Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Jamin's Daily, episode number 23. We got a great show for you today. Got some great topics, things that have been in the news that I just felt like I have to share with you. Starting off with a heavy hitter, the Breonna Taylor investigation. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds on this very I don't want to say controversial. It's not controversial as much as it's also like very high emotions either way. So really the only thing that I thought was newsworthy that I want to share with you, the audience, was these things that I've been told or that I hear, and then there's conflicting things that I also hear, and it's hard to know the truth, right? And unfortunately, my opinion is on some of these situations that have come out, the initial reports are one thing, and then it turns out that something else actually happened, right? It's not always, the truth isn't always revealed at the very beginning, which is why people always say, well, wait till we learn all the facts, wait until we hear all the information before you rush to judge, which is wise advice to give. And so, just going to read this that came off on the internet. It says that Breonna Taylor, the investigation reveals the sequence of events that led to her death. One is, this is after the investigation, okay? So you can conspiracy theorize all you want on the investigation itself is a lie. But what they found, that cops did knock on the door. So there was this big deal about a no-knock warrant. Senator Ron Paul, a Republican, actually introduced legislation in Congress to ban these no-knock warrants, which is not entirely a terrible idea. If you're in law enforcement and you know better, send me an email at jaminsdaily@gmail.com and opine, let me know, tell me something else if you know better. But the fact of the matter is, according to a eyewitness, who heard the cops knock and announce themselves, so it was not a no-knock warrant. So that's one. The biggest issue, one was also that they were at the wrong home. That no, the warrant that this Breonna Taylor was under some kind of drug investigation. Okay, not to what's the word, besmirch, or to blame the victim. Okay, but they were at the right place. When they enter, the bad thing about these warrants is what happens. So her boyfriend, the cops come in, the boyfriend admits that he shot at them first, okay? So the cops come in, they're getting shot at, so they return fire, and Breonna Taylor is killed. The boyfriend says that he thought they were just like home invaders or something, which is completely plausible. But when you shoot at the cops, they're gonna probably shoot back, okay? And so, unfortunately, the Breonna Taylor was killed in this situation. Now, one of the stories that was given from the beginning was that Breonna Taylor was in her bed, like asleep, and she was just shot while she was sleeping in bed. The investigation says that no, in fact, she actually died next to her boyfriend in the hallway and not in bed as claimed. So what kind of bugs me is that from the beginning, when all the facts aren't out, these activists come out and say that she was murdered because cops did a no-knock warrant, came in guns a-blazing, and shot her while she laid in bed. That's the story that they paint. When then we later find out that no, they actually knocked. It wasn't a no-knock. There's a third-party witness. I don't know, somebody who lived in the apartment. I mean, somebody. This went to a grand jury, so people believe this person was, I guess, believable. Hey, I heard the cops there. Then once they're in, they're getting shot at, so they're going to shoot back. And then she wasn't in bed asleep. She was in the hallway. So everything we were told at the beginning is, I'm not going to say it's a lie. It just wasn't the truth. Okay? Just because you fail to give the truth doesn't mean you're lying. You could think what you're saying is somewhat the truth, or you don't know the truth, so what you're saying is just a story. It's just a story. It's not the truth. Okay? And so the Kentucky Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, yesterday on Wednesday, gave a detailed account of the sequence of events in the March 13th shooting of Breonna Taylor. This Daniel Cameron, the Kentucky Attorney General, is a black man. Which means nothing other than the fact that, there's so much focus on the identity and the where there's the race, the ethnicity, all these different things of people. So I only bring that up because he's a Republican. He's a black man, Daniel Cameron. The investigation found that the 26-year-old was shot dead in the hallway of her home while standing next to her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. The cops fired 32 shots, 6 of which struck Taylor. Only one of those shots was determined to be fatal. The Kentucky grand jury brought charges against Officer Brett Hankinson, who was fired in the aftermath of the shooting. The charges stem from Hankinson's bullets traveling into a neighbor's apartment when he and 2 other officers opened fire. And so this is one reason why I don't like especially in an apartment. But this is one reason why I don't like these warrants. And I've heard on the news others say they should have been surveilling them and they could have found another way to either apprehend or do something, right? Serve this warrant. I don't understand. Why you always wait until they're in their house? Why don't you get them while they're just walking in the street somewhere? Just pull up on them. But I don't know. I'm not law enforcement. But the cop who's getting shot at, shooting back, this one cop shot 10 shots. And if there's 32 shots and there's 3 cops, that means they all 10 shot around 10? I mean, all 3 shot 10, that would be 30. But this guy's shots, I guess, were more errant, went into the neighbors. And this is, again, why I don't like it. Because innocent people in the other apartment could have been shot and killed. Women and children, okay? So that's no bueno. Okay, we can't be having that. Tactics need to be reviewed. So he was charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment. The charges stem from Hankinson's bullets. Okay, we said that the charges of wanton endangerment are brought when a person is found to have recklessly endangered the conduct that puts a person at risk of death or injury. So yes, if you're shooting a bunch of gunshots in an apartment, they're going to go through the wall into the next apartment, and luckily nobody else was injured. So the cop gets fired, and then he gets these charges. But people weren't going to be happy unless all 3 were charged with like first-degree murder and then public hanging. Okay, anything less was not going to satisfy them. So it's always one of these crazy situations where it's the result. They always overcharge these people too, and then when it goes to court, you can't. The law doesn't work that way, and so then they get off, and they know what's going to happen. Then there would be more. The way I describe it is protesting that then later leads to property damage. Rioting is a strong word, but property damage, and then in the more severe cases, then rioting. So it's unfortunate. I feel like there needs to be a I don't know. Freedom of speech is what it is, so you can say what you want. But there needs to be more of a public accounting for when these things happen, that the initial description of the events cannot be believed or cannot be acted upon. You have to wait. I know it's hard to do that, but in so many of these situations, people act on the initial news, and then it turns out to be wrong. That is the almost the definition of like mob mentality. I'm not just talking about today. I'm not trying to put down BLM or the protesters or anything like that. I mean, this is how back in the day, this is how Southern racists and the KKK, and that's how they responded. An accusation was made, which was untrue, about some black man hitting on or doing something to some white woman, and then what would happen? It would lead to a mob who would then, the rest. But it turns into an event that is not true, that is then told to be true, and then there's a response. And we know how this is happening. The prime example, this event happened, the events are then described to people. Those events that are described to these people, we know now not to be exactly true, but it doesn't matter. It's too late. They believe what they want to believe. They will believe that this is not exactly what happened. And so it's just so unfortunate. And there's no way to really fix that other than at the individual level, people need to make the decision that, this happened. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to see what actually happened, because from experience, I have learned and I have seen that this is not necessarily exactly, things change. Okay, folks? So you got to wait. And that's my lesson to you, my advice. I actually turned off the AC because in many of our past episodes, folks, you can hear the AC in the background. It sounds like we're in the middle of a hurricane. But I feel like I have to leave them on to be comfortable because I got these lights on so I can look good, But it's hot. These lights are hot and I'm sweating a little bit. Can you tell? I don't know. My skin a little hot, but I'm going to try to make it because I told myself, I said, we're going to get rid of this stupid AC noise. And there's a way on my mixer to try to, get rid of that. But I got to get with my producer and learn how to do that again because I forgot. So, moving on to another hilarious story. Where is this world going to, folks? In Seattle has hired a former pimp as a street czar, paying him $150,000 a year to develop alternatives to policing. Seattle has hired a former pimp to serve as a street czar who will help the city government communicate with racial justice activists and consult on available alternatives to traditional law enforcement. Who would know? Who would know better than, former, somebody in the streets, a criminal themselves? This is what you should do, cops, to, I guess, go after criminals in another way. So Seattle hired activist Andre Taylor, who is open about his past as a pimp, to help city officials better understand the racial justice issues before they become the subject of demonstrations or worse, riots. Taylor, no stranger to street violence himself, his brother Che was killed in a confrontation with Seattle police in 2016. And although he runs a nonprofit designed to seek racial justice and improve policing, he was critical of the now infamous the Capitol Hill Occupied protest, the CHOP is what it was called. Remember that CHOP? And joined with the father of a black teenager killed on the outskirts of CHOP to urge the city to take action and break up the protests, appearing with him on Fox News and in other television interviews. So Taylor has previously worked with the city. He's actually received $100,000 for his nonprofit to host a panel discussions called Conversation with the Streets in 2019. What the heck? I wish somebody can give me $100,000. We can talk about whatever you want. Okay? I'll be on a panel. We have multiple discussions on whatever it is you want. Pay me $100,000. I'll be there. Tell me when. Taylor told local media that he's happy to help provide necessary expertise. Me, as a black man, has the right to be paid for my genius or for whatever my organization can provide. So he's anticipating the backlash. So he's trying to say, hey, listen, I got this genius. I have this intel that they need And so they got to pay. It ain't free. He says black people as a whole have not been in a place to be compensated for their genius or their work for a very, very long time. That's true to a degree. Taylor's $100,050 per year contract comes as part of a multi-million-dollar community investment Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin announced earlier this summer, just as the Capitol Hill, the CHOP, that protest, the autonomous zone, was kicking off. So in early June, she committed in her 2021 budget $100 million in investment in the community. Andre spoke with organizers about how to turn activism and organizing into action at the state, local, and federal level and urged individuals to leave Capitol Hill. I think that's a good idea. Politicians need to get out of Washington, D.C. and be in the streets with Andre, street pimp. He also offered to serve as a liaison between protesters and the Seattle city government, encouraging protesters to demand community investment in the 7 figures before agreeing to disassemble their makeshift camp. He reportedly tried to press protesters to ask for changes to city policies rather than to ask city council members to fully abolish the city's law enforcement. So this guy slightly, it seems like, is a moderating go-between between the government officials and then protesters. So, interestingly, Taylor's job may be designed to also serve as a way for Seattle's mayor to compromise with her city council. Despite her veto, the city council went ahead with plans to cut the Seattle Police Department's budget and eliminate around 100 positions within the Seattle Police Department, as well as the department's navigation program. The city council also capped police officer pay at $150,000 a year, even for top brass. I don't understand how cops make $150,000 for one. I know they should make $1 million. I mean, it's a tough job. If you can make $150,000, that's great. But it just seems like that's a lot of money. That's what like an engineer or a doctor or something makes. With advanced degree. I don't know. That just seems like a lot of money. Taylor is more in line with Durkin, believing that law enforcement should be reformed and taught to communicate with the black community rather than defunded and disbanded. And some activists, the Seattle Times reports, worry the mayor has brought on a high-profile black leader who sees eye to eye with her in an attempt to head off such changes. Politicians do that. So they're saying that the mayor brought in this guy, this pimp, because he's more in line with what she's trying to do and not as revolutionary as the protesters. And I tell you what, Andre, street pimp, is probably going to go along and say whatever the mayor wants him to because she's giving him the contract, $150,000. He's no dummy. It just, this is Seattle, folks. I'm glad I live in Texas. Moving on. Last topic before the break. Actually, this is a long topic, so we are going to go to the break. This show is brought to you by Sage Choice Insurance Agency. Full service, independent agency. You can call us anytime at 361-400-2411. You can get a quick quote online by just going to quotefromjamin.com. Home and auto quote. On your smartphone, on your desktop, quick form, boom, 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 boom. Let's enter in some information. Safe and secure. We'll contact you with the quote. When we get back, we're going to talk about California Governor Gavin Newsom's ban. He's banning the sale of gas-powered cars in the state by 2035. So in 15 years, you're not going to be able to go buy a new car that runs on gas in California. So he issued an executive order to radically change the energy consumption in the state. So when we get back, folks, stay with us. Hey guys, back from the break. We're going to get into California and how they're going to ban the sale of cars that run on gasoline by 2035. And they're doing that by executive order. Nobody voted for this, folks, okay? The governor just issued it because he said that they need bold action. Bold action is what's needed. He says that California is phasing out the internal combustion engine. And by 2035, every new car sold in California will be an emission-free vehicle. And by 2045, they're going to start trucks, small trucks, light trucks are going to need to do this as well. And then later on, but the medium and heavy duty vehicles will be required to transition where feasible. So, they're going to try to, can you imagine? So we're talking about like Mack trucks and semis running on electrical semis. Okay. Maybe in 2045, that's 25 years from now. So maybe they are still going to let you keep it. So it says you can still keep your internal combustion cars and you can still trade them and sell them, and they're not going to take them away. You just not going to be able to buy a new one. He says this is the most impactful step the state can take to fight climate change. He says, for too many decades, we have allowed cars to pollute the air that our children and families breathe. You deserve to have a car that doesn't give your kids asthma. Our cars shouldn't make wildfires worse and create more days filled with smoky air. Cars shouldn't melt glaciers or raise sea levels or threatening our cherished beaches and coastlines. So yeah, this is what's going to happen, folks. So this is all to fight climate change. And to some people, this is like the most pressing issue in the world because it's literally going to kill us. And so he says here that the governor, he says, okay, so the extreme fire events that they believe, all these fires that are going on, they believe are climate induced. And so they're trying to change all the cars. They're trying to get all these cars that run on gas off the streets. Nobody voted for it. It's an executive order. This is going to be a big cost. This is going to affect the poor the most. This is how I see it. But then again, they always talk about this environmental justice because poor communities tend to live by these industrial areas that have higher pollution or less or poor air quality. So they're going to try to say there's some kind of, they're not going to, these poor people are not going to care whenever their transportation costs go up 3, 4, 5 times what they normally would be. But, when you put it like that, when you say, hey, the children have asthma, we got to get rid of the cars. What are you going to say? No, let the kids have asthma? And what I don't understand is they're saying that these cars are going to be emission free. So now, if you have an electric car, you have to plug it in to get electricity. And in many cases, that electricity is coming from some kind of power plant, something, in most cases, that still, in most cases, is run by fossil fuels. Okay, you can get, like when I look at my energy bill, and if I want to feel good about myself, I can try to pay more money so that I can get more clean energy as part of the energy that I use. So I can get some more green energy like the wind or solar as part of my energy package that comes in. But still, the majority of it is coming from likely coal plants. So I'm charging my electric car with a coal plant. It's not emission free. So the only way it can be emission free is if what you're using to charge the electric car is the energy used to charge it has to be emission free too. So it has to be either wind or solar or something else, nuclear. And they don't have enough of that. I can't see how even in 15 years there's going to be enough of that type of energy to be charging all these cars that are going to be needed in California. They're going to have some problems. You hear it first. So here, 15 years from now, folks, when we're on episode 2300, instead of episode 23, we're going to be on episode 2300, okay? And I'm going to be like, I told you so. Moving along, let's get into the coronavirus update and how to protect yourself. You know, earlier in an episode this year, we talked about the neck girders. You know, the thing, you know, you pull them up to cover your face and you can put them back down and you can pull them back up. I have one, never wore it. We were told that studies showed that those were ineffective and even possibly worse than wearing no mask at all. And yet, when you go outside and you walk around, there's people still wearing these. And nobody says anything to them. I never say anything to anybody if they're not wearing a mask. But these neck girders are supposed to be even worse than wearing a mask, which I don't understand. But they're still wearing them. Now we find out that face shields, you know the face shields? They're ineffective at blocking aerosols to prevent COVID-19, says a study. It says here that face shields have been, for some, a good alternative to wearing a mask, but the new research shows that they probably don't do much to protect against the spread of COVID-19. And so there's a study that was done by this Japanese research institute, which was using, so they're running these computer models, and they were using the world's fastest supercomputer called Fugaku. It's a G, Fugaku. I don't know, I'm not Japanese, so it's hard for me to know how to pronounce these things. The simulation found that nearly 100% of the airborne droplets that are less than 5 micrometers in size escaped through the plastic visor. So they're getting in somehow. Okay, you can't block it. So why are you wearing them? You know, you would think if you're going to wear a face mask and look like a crazy person, at least it should be effective. But no, you're wearing this face mask and you look like, it's almost like, you know, when dogs go to the vet and they put that thing around their neck. It's kind of similar. It just looks silly. Nobody can wear these visors and not look, you know, look silly is the nicest word I can use, right? They look silly wearing these visors. And now knowing, when I go out in public and I see somebody with a visor, I'm going to go up to them and say, excuse me, but I hate to tell you that you look like a fool for no reason. This thing is not helping you, says a Japanese research study group using a supercomputer. Okay, so how can they be wrong? You know who's wrong? The people wearing these plastic face covers and shields. Remember, one of the funny thing about this too is that I can remember in the early part of the pandemic where there were all these people, you know, making these face shields. Oh, I'm gotta make these face shields and, you know, doing their part. That's great. Everybody wants to feel like they're helping and doing their part. That's great. Keep doing it, folks. But now we know it was all for naught. You weren't accomplishing anything because these face shields are not effective. So maybe they're effective if you're wearing a mask and then you have that on top and then you put a plastic bag over your head. You know, it's just one part of your armor, I guess. But, you know, the Japanese, they tend to know what they're talking about. And when they're using a supercomputer on top of that, I'm going to believe them. I tend to believe that these face shields aren't doing jack. Moving along, folks. You know, I wasn't going to say anything, but I had already done this segment. I was like 16 minutes in, and my stinking Mac froze again. I've had this problem before on an episode on the podcast. And when I'm lucky, it happens fairly early. But when it happens 16, 18 minutes in, it's a bummer because then I just lose all that material. So, but you know what? I think it was for the best because I'm liking this. The second time around is even better, folks. Okay? That's what she said. Helicopters, armed police swoop in. We're headed into our next topic. Helicopters and armed police. They swoop in, and who are they coming after? Who are they arresting? Russian Jesus. You heard of this guy? Russian Jesus. He runs a cult in Siberia. There was a Vice segment on Vice News, I think. They did not a whole episode, but like maybe a 15-20 minute segment on Russian Jesus and his commune. And he was very nice. Everybody they talked to was happy to be there. I mean, it was bizarre, but nobody... It's not like the people who were trying to escape, they didn't get any airtime, I'm sure. They were kept in the dungeon. That was a couple years ago. Well, I don't know. Something went down, and they came and got him. But let's find out a little bit about Russian Jesus. Sergei Turop, a.k.a. Vizarion, has been running the Church of the Last Testament in Siberia since 1991. Okay? So this guy is the reincarnation of Jesus, and he calls himself Vizarion. He's a former traffic police officer, okay? And he declared himself again, Jesus reincarnated. He's been arrested. Helicopters swooped in, infiltrated his communities. They arrested Russian Jesus, who's 59 years old. And they arrested 2 of his aides, one of which is named Radim Redkin, who was a former drummer in a Soviet boy band. All right, what do Soviet boy bands even look like? I'm going to have to Google this. Folks at home, look it up. Who else would put Soviet boy band in your mind but Jamin here at Jamin's Daily? Who knows? There may be some hits. There may be some jams within the Russian boy bands. Russian Jesus, again, who's been running the cult since 1991, was a traffic cop. And here it says that he's been running the cult since 1991, but he was a Russian traffic cop until 1998. So he had a day job as being a Russian traffic cop, but then he would go home and be Jesus to his commune. That's pretty cool, if you ask me. He claims to have had an awakening in which he adopted the persona of Jesus. So he says that he's not God, and that it is a mistake to see Jesus as God, but I am the living word of God, the Father. Everything that God wants to say, he says through me. Now that is always kind of troubling when somebody says, it's not that God can speak to you. Okay, if you're a believer, sometimes, you hear, the Lord will speak to you, right? I mean, people think that this is not uncommon for believers to say or to feel this way, right? But to say that God talks through you, so that basically what you're saying is what God says, that is like another level of, belief, I guess. I don't know. I'm not ready to go there, folks. But many were and are, because they were with this dude. So according to the Russian media, so his cult was like a mix of things, right? So they mixed in some Orthodox Christianity with environmentalism because they were all vegans. And then they mixed that in with communism because they lived in a commune in which there was no money. Nobody paid for things. Everybody just shared everything. They all dressed like, Mormons or Baptists, very modestly, austurely is the word. Austurely. I shouldn't even try to say that word. It's a dumb word. And their calendar starts in 1961. Why? Because that's when this dude was born. So they don't use a normal calendar, folks. And they don't even celebrate Christmas. You know what they celebrate? They celebrate Vizarion's, Russian Jesus' birthday, which is on January the 14th. At least it's only 3 weeks. They don't have to wait too long, right? And it's still cold, so you can still, have a snowman and sing Christmas carols, even though... So they're not Christmas carols, they're Russian Jesus carols, I guess. So, we're going to get into... So, what I found funny, and what I'm going to enlighten you with here, folks, in a moment with this information... is that, so this cult has been going on for almost 20 years. No, 30 years, since 1991. And nobody's put a stop to it. Although the Orthodox churches in Russia have long condemned the group. They were content to leave them alone. So it is unclear why they have chosen to move against his commune now. And the Russian Investigative Committee has said it's going to charge him with running an illegal religious organization and alleging that the cult members were extorted for money and subjected to emotional abuse. This is a common accusation of cult members. Okay? So that's fairly believable. But some Russian media outlets have reported that the community had clashed with local business interests. So you know what I think is more likely? Somebody wants to develop the land that they're living on, and they said, we need to get these guys out of here. Doesn't matter if he's Russian Jesus. And it doesn't matter if they're not harming anybody. They just need to skedaddle. So they found a way. And, you know, the only thing I feel kind of, can you imagine if you think somebody is like godly, or not godly, you can be godly. You think somebody's literally like a god and you're worshiping him in this kind of commune, and then all of a sudden he just disappears. How dejected would you feel? And then what would you do next? You know, like, where would you go? We're going to have a follow-up. Hopefully maybe this will make the news. And if it doesn't, I won't be surprised, because here on Jamin's Daily, you only hear the coolest of topics that you may not hear anywhere else, folks. Okay? So keep that in mind. Moving on. We're going to talk about Tom Cruise and his journey to space to make his next movie. And I'm not kidding you, folks. It's not going to be a space sci-fi movie. No. He's literally going to try to shoot a movie in space. And leave it to Tom Cruise, because even though he's crazy like a fox, okay? And he could possibly get this done. It says that earlier this year, it was reported that Tom Cruise was working with Elon Musk and SpaceX on a project that would see a movie actually shot in space. While we might call something like that a silly rumor coming from anybody else, Tom Cruise has built a reputation of not only being willing to perform extreme stunts himself, but actually looking for opportunities to do so. So now a Twitter account that follows space exploration has posted a schedule for future space travel missions that seems to confirm that both Tom Cruise and one of his frequent collaborators, writer-director Doug Liman, are currently booked to go to the International Space Station on October 2021 on board SpaceX Dragon Axiom. I guess that's like a space rocket. And there's still an empty seat on the flight if you want to go. I'll pass. The fact that both Tom Cruise and Doug Liman are confirmed for this trip, and Liman is currently listed as both the writer and director of this new SpaceX-related project, would seem to confirm that, yes, Tom Cruise is going to space to make a movie, though it doesn't give us any real details about what the movie is. And this is where, folks, you use your common sense. The movie is basically the whole... it's like a documentary. The movie is going to be basically them going to space and shooting a movie. So the movie is going to be about shooting a movie in space. Okay? That is impressive enough. They're shooting a movie in space, and the movie is going to be about them trying to shoot a movie in space. So you're going to see the whole, the launch, going through the atmosphere, in orbit, and they're probably going to do a couple scenes of something strange while they're in space, so that they can say they shot a movie in space. And then they're going to come down. And Tom Cruise will continue to be a rock star, because, that's next level, bro. You have the ability to say, hey, let me get on this spaceship. Like, Tom Cruise probably has Elon Musk's phone number, and he called him. He said, yo, what do you think about this? And Elon Musk is a badass. He's like, yeah, let's do it. These are and I like that kind of person. I like the kind of person who's just like, yes, the yes man. Like, yes, let's do it. We'll think about how we're going to do it later, but I'm a yes. Put me down for a yes. Let's make it happen. We'll figure it out. And that's how you get stuff done. You gotta have that mentality. It says whatever the movie is, it looks like Tom Cruise is actually going to go to space. And it's sort of wild to imagine that sometime in 2022, 2023, we might get a movie that includes scenes actually filmed in space. I think it's going to happen. I really do. We got 2 more topics, folks, when we get back from the break. But until then, just got to let you know that this podcast is sponsored by Sage Choice Insurance Agency. Full service, independent insurance agency. You can call us at 361-400-2411. Referral partners, we're always looking for them. So if you're a realtor, loan originator, reach out to us. We want to help you. We want to help your clients. We want to help you close your deals. It's like a symbiotic relationship. You help us, we help you. It works out beautifully. Mwah. Give us a call, 361-400-2411. Everybody else, all the fans out there, you can, instead of calling me, you can just go online to quotefromjamin.com. Fill out this online form. It's the next level. It's like the coolest, one of the best forms you're going to ever fill out. Okay, this ain't no, socialsecurity.gov form you got to fill out. Okay, folks, this is next level form. Super easy. Fill it out. Home auto quote. We'll get the info. We'll call you with a quote. So when we get back, we're going to look into, my mother always told me that you need to learn how to take a compliment. It's one of these key skills in life that will help you as you navigate this crazy world of ours. You should learn how to make a compliment. So when we get back, we're going to talk about being too skinny. If somebody says, "You're so skinny," "Oh, you look so skinny," is that a compliment? I don't know. When we get back, we'll find out. We're back from the break. Episode 23 of Jamin's Daily. Thanks for joining us, folks. We're going to get into the whole, can you be too skinny? I was always told you could never be too skinny. That's kind of like a saying if you Google it. It's kind of like a joke, like you can never be too skinny. But apparently, maybe when you tell somebody you're skinny, some people take offense. And so this girl kind of having a woke moment. This is a woke moment brought to you by Huffington Post. And so this lady is writing an article. I don't know if you folks know, but Huffington Post got one of their big starts was that they use bloggers and unpaid writers. So how genius is that? It's like, hey, we're going to start a website and we're going to put up these articles and we're going to get people to write the articles for free. But, when we get revenue and ad revenue from this, we're not going to pay them. But they want to be on the internet and write stuff, so we'll let them. So that's pretty genius if you ask me. But so this lady says, "You're so skinny" is not a compliment. So please stop commenting on my weight. Here's another story before we get into this. There was this guy who works at the grocery store that I would see because I go into the grocery store often. And he was larger. He was a big guy. And I don't know if I hadn't seen him or what, but one day I remember seeing him and it looked like he had lost 40 or 50 pounds. Like he lost a gang of weight, folks. It was noticeable. And so I told him, I was like, "Yo, man, did you lose weight?" And he was like, oh, he had the biggest smile. He was like, oh, he lit up. He was happy that somebody noticed. And he was like, "Yeah, man, I did. I've been working, I've been doing this, I've been doing that." And I was like, "Great, man. Good for you." I probably made his day. And yet you have these negative Nancy's telling me not to comment on someone's weight. I commented on his weight, told him, "Hey, man, you've lost weight. You look good." And he was like very happy that I did. So how am I supposed to know? If I say, "Hey, man, you look skinny," how am I supposed to know that that's, an unwanted compliment? It's kind of strange. You need to learn how to take a compliment. But let's continue here. She says, "I've never asked for anyone's opinion on my body. So I'm confused why the comments come so freely and unsolicited. You're so skinny. I hear it all the time. Friends, family, acquaintances, even strangers feel free to comment on my weight. It makes me cringe every time. Now, folks, when something happens in which everybody is doing it, right? It's not in every case. There's exceptions to this rule. But if everybody is telling you something like, "Oh, you look skinnier. Oh, you look," if they're all saying this, it's not because they're all a bunch of rude buttholes. It's because that's what people do and they're trying to be nice. You, the person who doesn't want to be told they're skinny, you're the one with the problem. You're the one who doesn't know how to take the compliment. All right. You're the one who's making this something that it doesn't need to be. Okay. But let's continue, because this lady, I had her name, but I'm not going to put it up. She continues to go on. And it's just this long form article of grievance as to why her being skinny is this terrible thing. So that when you tell her she's skinny, it's like a microaggression. And to her, it's maybe still classified as a microaggression, but it's larger. It's like one of the bigger microaggressions you can throw her way. Okay, so apparently she's been skinny all her life because she has anxiety, and then when she had kids, she had postpartums, and she lost weight because of that. I guarantee you, when she had kids and then she stayed thin and skinny, guarantee you there's people left and right telling her, "Oh, you look so great. You just had a baby and you're so skinny." When people say that, they're trying to be nice. Take the compliment. Don't be a negative Nancy and a sad person inside all your life. Nobody knows about the inner demons that you have. How are they supposed to? So when they say something that perhaps conjures up these inner demons, it's not their fault. You don't get to. What this person is trying to tell us is that you shouldn't tell anybody this ever, because she doesn't like it, because she thinks it's inappropriate and it bothers her. Now I can't tell anybody, comment on anybody's weight, even when it's a compliment, like I did that gentleman at the grocery store. Make his day. I'm sure he went home feeling, yeah, all this hard work, people will notice. Motivated him to continue keeping the weight off or continuing to lose more. But this lady, because she don't like it, she's trying to persuade me to think some type of way in which, well, maybe I shouldn't say that, because the vast majority take it as a compliment. And then you have the Debbie Downers, the minority, the minor minority, telling me not to. I don't like that. You know what? I'm going to find the first skinny person I see. I'm going to go to him and say, "You're skinny." See what happens. Anyways, let's find out one other reason why this lady feels like being skinny, or told that she's skinny, is in the moment she gives. So she has anxiety, and it says it digs up deep-rooted issues. It intertwines. Her weight intertwines with her struggle with anxiety. And she had postpartums. She says additionally, when she was breastfeeding for 2 years, it made it difficult to take in more calories. So she's giving all these excuses as to why she's skinny. Maybe she feels guilty because she's skinny. When people tell you you look thin or you're skinny, one of the other reasons why it's a compliment is because everybody knows the struggle that many, if not most, people have to keep weight off and to stay thin and not get heavy. It's a constant struggle. Very difficult. So when you see somebody who is, or you see somebody who's lost weight and is thinner, and you say something about it, it's always meant, at least the way I see it, as a compliment. Anyway, she says, I've been told I'm as small as my daughter. I've had a friend look at me and tell me I need to eat a cheeseburger. Gee, thanks. I never thought of that. I've been praised while out with friends on how good I look with my high-waisted jeans. I've even been asked what size I wear. Most of the times I uncomfortably laugh it off and quickly change the subject. I hate having my body be the topic of discussion. Again, these are like issues within the self. And I guess if this is just some kind of cathartic release that she's just writing about, this is like diary material. This is the material you write in a diary just to get it out. But because it's 2020 and people think everybody wants to hear your opinion, considering I'm doing a podcast, right? But, so now it's on Huffington Post. This lady says that her daughter is now 3 years old and I struggle to stay above 100 pounds. Sometimes I cry when I look in the mirror. So when people comment on my weight, it takes me to a place mentally that I don't like to be. So again, sounds like there's like issues upon issues for this poor lady. So what she should have done is include a photo in this. Maybe there is, so I know what she looks like and who she is. And she should really just send like a mass email to everybody she knows saying, don't say anything about how skinny I am. She could possibly wear a t-shirt every day that says that, because I think she's going to have a hard time convincing everybody in the world to not give compliments on people's weight. I don't know. It would be different if she was super heavy and people were always telling her how heavy she is. That's rude. But so then it's the opposite. It's the opposite is true. So when you're skinny and people tell you you're skinny, it's a compliment. I don't know. If I'm wrong, let me know. jaminsdaily@gmail.com. It says here, folks, according to this lady still. So remember, this is a woke moment. So I'm trying to preach. No, I'm not preaching. I'm the messenger, folks. So I'm just spreading the word on, some of the new trends on how perhaps you should behave. She says that complimenting someone's weight loss or smaller body size is toxic and ultimately fat phobic. Told you we were getting into some woke shit. The toxic cycle of judgment based on size needs to be dispelled. And we can do that by letting people live their lives without commenting on their bodies and minding our own business. You hear that? So does that mean, is your hair part of your body? So if you tell somebody, oh, I like your haircut, how do I not know if this person has some weird phobia about their hair? I don't know. What if they're wearing a wig? It's not even their hair. I don't think, imagine, could you go to a man and be like, dude, you look so buff. You must work out. And then privately, that guy's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. They told me I was so buff. Don't they know? Don't they know these issues that I'm dealing with? I don't know, folks. So it finishes. We'll end this topic with, she says, stop telling me I'm so skinny. I promise you that I know. And I don't consider it a compliment. There you have it. Always learning here on Jamin's Daily. And we're going to finish off with a hilarious, spicy article, a spicy incident. There we go. Got to come up with these better words and segues. Spicy incident that happened only in Florida where these things happen, folks. A man, headline says, man steals cat blood from Florida clinic. You heard me right, folks. A deputy has said that a man has stolen cat blood from a Florida clinic. I'm assuming it's a vet clinic. says a box containing the blood vials amounted to about $600. So in St. Augustine, Florida, a man caught on surveillance video is suspected of stealing cat blood from a veterinary clinic in Florida, sheriff officials said. It says the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office posted pictures showing the man who walked up to the door of the Anastasia Cat Clinic on September the 17th. The man was seen touching and inspecting an Antec Diagnostics blood box before leaving the area, sheriff's officials said. About 20 minutes later, a truck seen in the parking area and a man wearing the same clothing walked up to the clinic and took the box. And the box contained 4 vials of cat blood. I did not know cat blood is that expensive. $600? I guess the box and the vials and everything. The vehicle then left the area. We're going to try to put up those photos, folks, so you can see the perpetrator. What's the coolest thing about this article is speculating on what the heck this guy needs or is going to do with vials of cat blood. Do you think he knew what he was getting into or what he was after? Like, do you think he's some kind of mastermind? He's like, I'm going to steal vials of cat blood? Or was he just looking to steal something? I'm thinking he thought something else was in there. And then when he opened up that box and saw that they were just vials of blood, he was pretty disappointed. But maybe not. He could be like Frankenstein. He's over here conducting experiments in which he needs cat blood. It could happen. It could be true. We could hear it. He's still at large. He hasn't been caught. So who knows? Could be working on some next level. Maybe he's like a wizard or something. Maybe his girlfriend's a witch. And she told him, I need some cat blood for my spell. Can you go get me some? He's like, sure, babe. I know where to get it. Boom. Brownie points for him. We'll find a photo. We'll let you know. Hopefully, Jamin Daily community, maybe we can, put our resources together and we can find them. We can help. That would be great. That's what we're going to build, folks. We're going to build a community so strong and large that we could accomplish these things. Make a difference in the world. Save the vials of blood for the cats. Think about it. Some poor cat was probably needing that blood that day, and now it's not there. It's a tragedy. But that's going to about do it today, folks, for episode 23. I hope the topics we talked about were enjoyable and entertaining. I tell you, you can text me at 361. I'm going to give my phone number this time because nobody seems to have the time to send an email to Jamin at jaminsdaily@gmail. I don't really send very many personal emails nowadays myself. But this isn't personal, bro. This is like business for me. Maybe it's personal for you. But you can just text me. 361-331-4438. Text me if you like the topics. You have other topics that you have in mind you want to hear me talk about. More than happy to get into that. And finally, don't forget, Jamin's Daily is sponsored and brought to you by Sage Choice Insurance Agency, full service independent agency. We sell home, auto, business insurance. Been doing this for 12 years, folks. Okay. Expert in the field. I want to help you. I want to be your insurance guy. Okay. So give us a call at 361-400-2411. There it is. And I've been doing this long enough. You think you wouldn't forget, but sometimes you do. 361-400-2411 or go to quotefromjamin.com. Quotefromjamin.com. Get yourself a free quote. Simple, easy, secure. Send us some data. We'll get right back with you with a quote. So until the next time, you stick with us here with Jamin's Daily. Again, we're going to have episode 24 coming out right away. trying to get to 50 episodes so we can launch our YouTube channel. Just keep the momentum rolling. So stick with us, because the best is yet to come.